Welcome to today's edition of the Rush Limbaugh Show podcast.
You know, thank goodness this is the greatest radio audience ever, because this, well, it's going to be a challenging day. We're going to get through it. We're going to lay things out. We're going to talk about things. The number's 800-282-2882. My name's Ken Matthews. And yes, I have the job of letting you know that the great Walter E. Williams passed away earlier this morning. One of the greatest things to come out of Philadelphia, by the way, Walter E. Williams. And for this audience, you know, and I am in this audience as well when I'm not guest hosting, Walter was a beloved guest host on the Rush Limbaugh Show and a great economist, and just another example of what a happy warrior is. The man was brilliant. Over 150 publications. He's got books and commentary. One of America's greatest thinkers. So, Walter, rest in peace. And if you go to rushlimbaugh.com, we have linked to some great commentary of and on about the late Walter E. Williams. Just a great conservative, libertarian economist thinker. So that's, I was talking to Bo and Allie and Mike and the rest of the team and even some people here in the building, and everybody's shocked. I believe Walter was 84, if I'm not mistaken, but I stand corrected because this is all happening so fast if I made a mistake. But he was loved, and God bless his family in this time. So we move from there to the misinformation campaign led by the mainstream news media. I have gotten so many emails. In fact, they started last night. Every time I guest host for Mr. Limbaugh, which is always bittersweet now because of his treatment and the reason he's not here as often during this challenging time. So it's just one of those days, and I was talking to Mike through the intercom here, because I'm in my bunker in Pennsylvania, home of one of the most corrupt governments ever to exist, in Harrisburg. I said, you know, people look to the Rush Limbaugh Show and the EIB for guidance and direction. And I got to tell you, it's a heavy lift if you're not Rush Limbaugh. The guidance and direction part. However, I love the term happy warrior. And we have all been saying, and I say we, those of us in the talk radio world, because that's one of the few places left other than alternative online news sources and a handful of broadcast outlets like Newsmax or OAN. It's one of the few places left you can find out what's happening. And we need to know what's happening to make informed decisions as Americans. So what I've been telling people, we have to stay positive. We have to stay focused. We have to be engaged. We must be informed. We have to be informed. This is not the time to make your news source a late-night comedy show, which apparently people do. And I'm not talking about the shows on CNN. Although I think that's comedy. That's how American patriots have behaved throughout history. That is why we always win. Because we combine the common sense with the intelligence and staying informed and the passion and all those things that make America great. And we push on. We push on through death. We push on through adversity. Look at how the 74-plus million of us are pushing on through the stolen election of President Donald Trump, despite every major news network saying, nothing to see here. I don't know what you're talking about. What are you, a conspiracy theorist? Even Bill Barr, and I'll be spanking him later in the show. Not literally, but by the way, the DOJ will continue probing claims of election fraud, along with the FBI. That statement came out this morning, but yesterday, the red meat for the media yesterday was Bill Barr, and I don't know why he did it. I can't get into these people's minds. I'm not a mind reader, but I will say that every single person that has jumped the gun since it's been less than a month since millions of ballots have been explained and exposed as being irregular, I don't know how anybody with a straight face can say there's nothing to see there. And then I realized it. Talking to one liberal friend I have left. They just watch mainstream news media. And I thought the genius of that, the genius of stealing an election and then convincing millions of people that it wasn't stolen just by ignoring it. It's kind of like when you question the COVID protocol in your state and you're banned from your website. Or, by the way, I'm proud to say I was banned from Facebook. But I'm back. I got banned twice last week because I did something so over the line, ladies and gentlemen, in the new 2020 America. I did something so over the line. I questioned the validity of a COVID death count in my state. Ooh, those are fighting words. And I also post and publish a lot of information on my Parler account. If I get knocked off of Facebook again, you can find me on Parler. The Rush Limbaugh Show. Rush is a icon in talk radio and information. I was saying to Bo Snerdley an hour ago, literally I said, where in the hell would we be if there wasn't talk radio? What broadcast medium, what outlet would people go to get some sense of what is going on, the reality of it? I have never seen so many people in my lifetime scattered among news media and academia that refuse to hear everything. They say they want to debate. They say they want to see all the facts. They say they want to follow the science, which has become... Follow the science has become a punchline now, and that is what the left does. They take these credible, serious concepts, and they turn them into funny things. Like, we follow the science. No, you don't. What science? Oh, you're a racist. Well, wait a minute. You just said you followed the science. What science? I'm not going to discuss this with you. Dude, can you post the science that you follow? I'm going to have you banned. So you've taken all the things that America embraces. How do I know this? Because we are now entering into our fourth live multi-hour hearing at a state level, and the news media has been ignoring it. Pennsylvania, Arizona, what did we do? Michigan. I think we're going. No, we were in Nevada. Or we're going to Nevada. I forget. But the Trump team, is making so much progress in showing you evidence and the facts. And the news media, 97% anti-Trump, is scrambling to stop it. Whether it's military observers in Michigan or Postal Service witnesses in Wisconsin or what's going on in Pennsylvania. We know that's probably going to end up at the Supreme Court because we have, like many blue states, we have corrupt judges. Corrupt judges are leftist best friends because even if you do make it that far, which the Trump team has done on more than one occasion, I've seen it with my own eyes. Millions of people have seen it. It gets posted, it gets scrubbed, it gets reposted. If you haven't seen these witnesses that have risked their reputation, their jobs, and injury to come forward and say, yes, I'll sign an affidavit, I will give a deposition. There's hundreds of people that are doing that right now. I am so proud of those people. I am disgusted by so many of people in government. I mean, it makes you nauseous, doesn't it? Senator Pat Toomey comes out and says, what fraud? I don't see any fraud. Do you see any fraud? I don't see any fraud. What I see is 2 years left on my term and big opportunities. Yeah, we get it. I think Bill Barr may have fallen into that trap, too. But millions of Americans are not intimidated by the scolding and the verbal attacks they get from mainstream news media. Later on in the show, we'll go into a little more detail in that. And this is how we stay positive. We stay focused. We stay engaged. We stay informed. This is how we do it. We don't cringe every time a mainstream news media outlet says, it's over for Trump. And by the way, Joe Biden is bringing a cat and a dog to the White House. How can we believe a news media that has ignored the Epstein case, the Hillary Clinton case, the Joe Biden Ukraine case, the Hunter Biden hard drive, and they've buried everything to do with Obanism for 8 years? How can we trust them? We can't. So that's my effort to get us re-engaged. I already know this audience is engaged. It's the greatest audience in radio. It's the greatest analysis. That people are loving. They're friendly. I've been to the rallies. I see your comments that you send to Rush at rushlimbaugh.com, which continue. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to crack open a can of positive kick butt. See how I took that and softened it up? Because I didn't want to trigger anybody. I didn't want to say, whoop ass. I'm Ken Matthews. We'll be right back on The Rush Limbaugh Show. You're tuned into The Rush Limbaugh Show. My name is Ken Matthews. I'm in the battleground state of Pennsylvania, where the legal, energized, fair fight continues. Well, I don't know how fair it is, but the other team's kind of, illegal. Let me just mention very quickly the 6 states and soon to be Virginia. I don't know if you've been following what's going on in Virginia, but it should concern us all as Americans when somebody says, hey, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona all have irregularities, fraud, problems, depositions, testimony, witnesses, video. 3 have already had hearings. We're moving on to another hearing by the end of this week. Oh, by the way, we are going to try to, as Mr. Limbaugh says, jip a live press conference just after 2 o'clock. We're going to see if we can do that. We're either going to do that or we're going to get you some something from the moon or something. We have the technology. We just have to aim it in the right direction. So you're either going to hear people alive on the moon or we're going to go to this press conference. I know our tech guy Mike can do it. It's going to be Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood, and 2 of the brightest legal minds, period. And I think they terrify the left, and there's a reason they're not in mainstream media, because it doesn't fit the narrative. So you have to ask yourself, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, all had some serious problems with this procedure or this technology or this voting system. Then you go to Virginia and you say, we'd like to just check. We want to double check. We just want a count that is fair and accurate. And constitutionally, it has to be before it's certified. That's why the Kabuki Theater and the Secretary of State just certified another election. Well, bad on you, Secretary of State, because you are not constitutionally allowed to certify anything that has been proven or shown to have irregularities or, in many cases, illegalities. I don't know what the rush is. It's December 2nd. The other thing that's being spread around the internet. Oh, and I said to my sons the other night, I said, you know why the founding fathers were so smart? People like Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. Because they didn't have the internet, they didn't have TV. That's why they were so smart. So when they came in and shared a concept or an ideology, they had to learn it for real. To simplify it, fire is really hot. You can't overload a wagon, etc. They couldn't just Google it. Liberty for all. Google. Can you imagine how stupid we would all be? Thank God social media wasn't around then. Talk about poison. And they knew poison. You got bit by a poisonous snake, it went into your diary. The snake with the weird stripes on it, Bucky just died, that's poison, put it in the journal. You didn't Google it. And those of us that are messengers, we're not the issue. There's so many brave witnesses and people involved in this recount effort, the audit effort, checking irregularities. There's so many honest Americans, and it breaks my heart that so many other honest Americans, many of them Democrats, are not seeing this. You're not hearing this. You're hearing an analysis by someone that despises you, or at least Trump. But you know from listening to CNN, MSNBC, NBC, even Fox now, that a lot of people take that little hate pod that they've enclosed Trump in. They put us all in it. Oh, you did for Trump? You voted for Trump? Yeah. 74 million that we know of. And if the news media did its job, and if they showed you, imagine if they showed you all the evidence. Imagine if news directors, like over at CNN, said, we have got to get the evidence to the people. We have to let them decide. Now, thank God this is happening. And the state-level representatives, who I encourage you to continue to call, and state-level senators, like in Pennsylvania, like in Michigan, Nevada, Arizona. Arizona is stunning in the level of testimony that came out this week. It is amazing. It is better than any TV court drama you can watch. And it's being blacked out by everyone from the New York Times to mainstream cable news. That is, you know, you want to talk about voter theft. What about information theft? These people in the news media have fallen short. Their job is to give us the evidence and the factual information so we can use our intelligence, which is far greater than most in news media. Trust me, I've met a lot of them, to make a decision. And you're being denied that. So first, somebody steals votes, and then the news media adds insult to injury and said, nobody stole your vote. I didn't see anything. Besides, I hate Trump. Trump's a big orange meanie. And that's a shame. So thank God for talk radio. And thank God for this audience. Because this audience is moving the dial. You're moving the dial. This audience is moving America back to where it should be. We need to move this country away from China. Your calls coming up. People of Earth, thanks for tuning in to the Rush Limbaugh Show. What I would like to do is, in case you're just joining us, earlier today we lost an icon, an economic icon, a conservative, libertarian icon, just a brilliant man and a good man and a funny man, Walter Williams, and a beloved host of the Rush Limbaugh Show. And that's how a lot of us met Walter, through the Rush Limbaugh Show. So here's some Walter just to remind us all of how brilliant he was.
Liberty is not the normal state of affairs. That is, throughout mankind's history, he's been subject to arbitrary abuse and control by others. And so the amount of liberties that Americans have, and perhaps Western Europe as well, the amount of it is relatively rare in humankind. And I think that the danger that we face is that some historian, maybe 200 years from now, he might be writing, he says, well, look, the normal state of affairs has been arbitrary abuse and control by others. And there's this little tiny curiosity where a relatively few people had a large amount of liberty for a short amount of time, but it all went back to the normal state of affairs. That is arbitrary abuse and control by others.
Walter Williams, rest in peace. The number is 800-282-2882. I'm Ken Matthews, guest hosting today for Mr. Limbaugh. Let's hit the phones, and they're on fire. I mean, not literally. Don't hit the alarm, please. Let's go to Butch in Saratoga. Is that California?
Yes, sir, it is. Silicon
Wow.
Valley. Everybody keeps saying there's no widespread voter fraud. To me, the connotations of that statement is they're admitting there was voter fraud. Also, Ken, I got a couple questions for you. One is, as far as the irregularities, it seems to me there was more votes counted in some of the battleground states than there was registered voters. That should also be a big red flag right there. And also another question I have for you is, the recounts going around the country, does that include all the mail-in votes for Biden, including the ones that showed up after the polls closed?
Well, that is a great question, and I'm glad you called. I didn't know there was a Saratoga, California, Butch. I think all of it should be included. Do I know for a fact that all these aspects that are being counted? I'm not sure. Now, just after 2 o'clock, we're going to try to grab the audio and share it with you as Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood of the president's team bring us up to speed on some other aspects of the case. But just in, and I'm proud, I am so proud of a handful of Pennsylvania politicians. I never thought I'd say that with a straight face, but I really am. There are some great men and women in our General Assembly, and they have fought to get a hearing, which we had, and that set the stage for another hearing and another hearing. And what's coming out in these hearings is amazing. Not just the mail-in vote, the ballots and the dead people voting, and sometimes that's on the peripheral of what people are hearing. The real thing is with the mail-in ballots of creating ballots that don't exist, and then you have the issue with the Dominion vote counting systems, which that plot gets thicker by the day. And that proves a systemic connection to all these states that have Dominion. Many of you may remember, I know in this audience, the stopping of the vote, the shutting down, if you will. The election, in essence, shut down long enough for something to go on and people to mess with these computers. But getting back to what you said, Butch, 1.8 million ballots were sent out in Pennsylvania, mail-in ballots. And amazingly, 2.5 were returned. See, this is the problem. This is an irregularity. And for a senator or anybody in law enforcement or the pretend-elect Biden, many of you know him. He's the guy with the dog. We know a lot about the guy. He likes vanilla ice cream. He's bringing a cat. He's going to bring a cat to the White House. That right there should disqualify him. Oh, I'm kidding. I know there's a lot of cat lovers in the audience. But anybody to say, even if there was, think about this, even if there was one case of fraud in one precinct in one state, somebody should be concerned about that. And they should try to correct it. When you have systemic fraud in multiple precincts, like in Michigan, Nevada, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, you're not talking about 71 votes. You're talking about millions of votes. And it's layered. They had these systems that they felt would be redundant. And if we don't get enough mail-in votes to beat Donald Trump, it turned out they didn't have enough. It turned out that they cheated. Donald Trump came into the game, President Donald Trump came into the game knowing they would cheat, and he still won. Then we went to the, I guess you could call it an insurance system. We've heard that term before, have we not? An insurance policy, rather? Oh, you have an insurance policy. Yeah, the mail-in votes didn't do it. Well, look at this. Press this button and program this, and for every one vote Biden gets, Trump will get a negative something. That is all coming out. That's the other thing that drives me crazy, especially with Bill Barr's comment. And it turns out, by the way, that the Justice Department has come out several times already today. I have some of their statements here. And I want to share those because that's a big talking point. And what will happen is The left will grab a talking point that it likes, and they'll use it for 7 years. So now you have to listen to your dingbat, uninformed liberal friends talking through their mask saying, but Bill Barr said, what about what Bill Barr said? I know there's all that evidence, but what about Bill Barr? This is why I'm ticked off at Bill Barr. What did my mom say? If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Come on, Mr. Attorney General. Whose team are you on? Are you on Team America? Or are you on Team Ice Cream with Joe? Anyway, the Justice Department is now reiterating it has not concluded its investigation of possible election fraud and is vowing to pursue all specific and credible allegations of ballot fraud stemming from the presidential contest. A statement by DOJ spokesperson came after the AP interviewed Attorney General Bill Barr about the status of the probe. CBS News, well, that right there concerns me. As soon as I see CBS News, I'm like, uh-oh. And the funny thing is, it was Catherine Herridge who, in my opinion, the best CBS News has. I mean, CBS News, you should thank your lucky stars that Catherine Herridge is there because she's probably the most credible person in your organization. The DOJ spokesperson did not deny the AP report, but was at odds with how some media presented it, yada, yada, yada. Now, you know that's the name of the game. If you're not going to show evidence of something, you're not going to fill your news with things that people need, like let's go live to the hearing for 30 minutes, or here's what 18 witnesses said today, or here's what a distinguished military official said today. If you're just going to fill it with quote after quote after quote and then cut to Don Lemon and Joe Scarborough trashing Trump, no wonder you don't have any credibility. Some media outlets have incorrectly reported that the DOJ ended its investigation. It never started it officially, and neither did the FBI. The FBI came out publicly Monday for the very first time and said, okay, all right, we're going to look into it. Okay, all right. Now that the illegal ballots are stacked higher than a van, and I can't find my way around the warehouse because there's so much illegality going on, I think we'll cover it. Let's hope they do a better job than Mueller and Durham have done so far, because I'm unimpressed with that, too. And I don't know what's going on there. 800-282-2882. Now, still to come, we have some more great calls coming up. And you know that, what a bonehead, Paul Krugman. And Paul Krugman is another example of how the New York Times has lost so much credibility. Again, I want to stress, and we have to do it in a way that's non-combative. And it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating to post something and say, hey, take a look at this guy in Arizona. He said that there was a van load of 4,000 votes, and none of them were real. And you post that, and then the response from your friends are, you need to stop being so divisive. You see, this is what we're up against. And this is what happens when you brainwash people. Keep in mind, it starts in the schools, then it goes to the colleges, and then before you know it, sitting congresswomen are saying, you know, socialism really works. I know, because I was a bartender. I'm Ken Matthews in for Rush Limbaugh. We'll be right back. And I just took a bite of my sandwich, and Mike said, you're up. Okay. Throughout the show today, I am going to be showcasing items from a list that you can use for your own information, but chances are in this audience you're already aware of it. So if you have something or you hear something that is redundant to you, and that happens often because Rush Limbaugh's audience is the most informed. So often you're driving down the road and, oh yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I know. Oh yeah, I heard that on Rush. So we're going to be going through a list that Andrea Widberg from the American Thinker put together, and it's a wonderful list. And we'll be just showcasing some of the touch points of the irregularities and the vote theft that the news media has ignored. I think the blowback on the American news media is going to be so extreme when millions of hardworking, honest Democrats that are interested in the facts find out that the Democrat Party and the news media has been keeping the facts from them. I mean, if you are, let's say you're an honest Democrat that likes to see all the evidence, make your own decision. You know, you have a column for Trump, you have a column for Biden. Pros and cons, evidence, documentation, whatever. But if you're not allowed any of that, and you ask someone you think you can trust, like some of the great political minds on the left, Jimmy Kimmel or Joy Behar, incredible minds. You ask them and you say, well, what do you think about this? Oh, no. No. Now, you're going to feel like you got ripped off. So not only did the election get stolen from the 74-plus million that voted for President Donald Trump, your opportunity, all of us, the Democrats in particular, if you're a Biden voter, I guess you can call it Bowden, combine the two. Maybe I'll do that. If you're a Joe Biden voter, you had information stolen from you. Why didn't they tell you about Hunter's hard drive? It's not just because we, as concerned Americans, are being petty. Do you know how compromised Joe Biden is? Do you have any idea? Do you know he has an indictment in the Ukraine right now because of Burisma? This is a compromised guy. And his son is over the top compromised. And the fact that the news media doesn't explain. So when you go to the news source, whatever it may be, I don't want to trash all of them, you know, because there's only so much time. CNN, New York Times, MSNBC, ABC. I don't want to trash them all. When you go there expecting to get the truth and you say, what's all this stuff about Joe Biden and quid pro quo and Biden was holding back $1 billion until they fired a prosecutor that was more conducive to his son's case because his son was being investigated. And they say, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. That's just a bunch of hate from the right. Well, they've done a disservice to you. Now, grant you, they've insulted us, but we're conservatives. We're conservative Americans. We know what it's like to be insulted. My gosh, I'm a white heterosexual Christian male. You should see my Twitter sometimes. Anyway, so think about that for a moment. So I often tell people, don't blame us. Don't blame me. I voted for Trump. But don't blame talk radio because your news source, whatever it may be, I listen to NPR because NPR plays classical music when they're talking, and that gives them an enormous amount of credibility. And then I also started to watch CNN International because I have accents. And if you have an accent, you're a lot smarter than everybody else. It's absurd. Don't blame us. Blame them. They denied you the right to be an informed voter. So there's actually two thefts that have taken place. You have the news media and the Democrat Party. They've stolen information and education to give all of us an opportunity to weigh all the facts. Like the background of Ilhan Omar, which we don't even, you would need 8 hours to go into that. The fact that that is in newscast once a week blows me away. So they stole the information. I guess you could say they stole the truth. I think it's safe to say that Mika and Joe over at MSNBC, there was a little grand theft auto going on there, right? The truth gone. So you had this truth is stolen, and now we're finding out from Americans who I trust more than anyone else. I trust the guy driving the postal truck or the UPS truck or the woman that volunteered her time to watch the votes being counted and is willing to come forward with her name and where she works in person and testify to an irregularity. She's got more credibility than most news anchors in this country. I'm Ken Matthews. We'll be right back with your calls. We're bringing some sunlight into the rain. That's what we're trying to do today. Put some light on it on the Rush Limbaugh Show. My name's Ken Matthews, filling in for Mr. Limbaugh on the EIB network. And I just want to encourage you, if you'd like to send well wishes to Rush, you can go to rushlimbaugh.com. Check it all out. He truly is America's anchor man, and thrilled with the messages that you've been sending and sharing with him on rushlimbaugh.com. Do we have time to get another call here? Okay, all right. Here's what I want to do. I want to give a heads up to Nancy in Maryland that we will be coming to you right after the top of the hour. And your call, all these calls today look great. But what I didn't want to do is start and then have to cut you off. Also, next hour, we're going to be bringing you some sound bites. Oh, they're delicious. You may want to take a break and come back really quick.
I'm an 18-year-old college kid chilling in his dorm room at the University of Alabama who just happens to have a lot to say. And when I say a lot to say, I mean a lot to say about everything. Hi, I'm CJ Pearson, and I'm the host of the brand new podcast, CJ Pearson Uncensored. Now, this isn't going to be your typical political podcast. And what I say, well, sometimes that gets me in trouble. Why? Because I couldn't care less about being politically correct or respecting anyone's safe space, because until the world decided to go all willy-nilly, what the hell was a safe space? What the hell was this idea that feelings mattered more than facts? We went from a world that actually valued truth to a world in which people now make the argument with a straight face that there are more than 80 genders, to a world that shames people for loving America too much. I'm tired of it, and that's why I'm here. Listen to CJ Pearson Uncensored every Thursday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, wherever you get your podcast.
It is great to see you. Hour 2 of the Rush Limbaugh Show. Thank you, Mr. Limbaugh and EIB team, for the opportunity, and thank you for listening. It's an important time in history. I got to admit, it's a little overwhelming. It's a little overwhelming when you look at all the disinformation out there or just the ignoring of information. And I am in the battleground state of PA, which you know is one of the first. Of course, it was such a keystone. See what I did there? Because we're called the Keystone State. It was such a key to the election initially, and I think that's why the systemic, and I know that's a popular word with Democrats, everything is systemic. Everything is systemic. This is an actual case of systemic, connected, working in unison for a common goal. The way these votes were manipulated, thrown away, stolen, forged, and switched. And I am proud to say that we in Pennsylvania and a handful of great patriots in our assembly have moved the dial, much like they've done in Arizona and Nevada, Michigan, soon to be Georgia. It's just outstanding. And we should be proud, especially people in this audience, because we don't do violence. We don't burn police cars. We don't say, I think they stole the election. Hey, let's go loot the Target. Let's go loot Walmart. Let's attack a cop. We don't do that. We say, where can we get the most accurate information and evidence? Who can we present it to? What can we do constitutionally to save our constitutional republic? Just a quick reminder to everybody at New York Times and MSNBC. We're not a democracy. It's a very pretty word, and nobody says it prettier than Barack Obama, but we're a republic, a constitutional republic. That's why we're moving in the direction we're moving. Peacefully, passionately, focused. And I, say what you want, but I think we're winning because I am seeing most of the information that's coming out, not always in real time, but I'm seeing most of it because I don't watch CNN or MSNBC. Only for fun, for comedy. Let's go to Nancy. Nancy, I promise you'd be the first call up from Baltimore, County, Maryland. Welcome to the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Ken Matthews, Baltimore County, Maryland, not Baltimore City. Listen, in the beginning of your show, you had mentioned that we don't have other alternatives on talk radio or outside of talk radio, Rush Limbaugh's show being the best, no doubt. We do have One American News, which is a conservative news channel, and it feeds in my area through Verizon, and it shows both sides of the news. It's pure journalism at its best. I have never found another station, and I tell everybody about One American News. You can get it on TV, you can get it on the internet and stream it that way. And I understand you guys listen to it, and it is outstanding, and they have been covering these witnesses who were poll watchers at the state legislatures in those states in question. They've been covering all the interviews. These people are coming with pages of notes and what happened to them. 2 men said that they were physically removed by security because they were asking too many questions as poll watchers. Most people said that they couldn't even see the ballot counting room, and that ballots came in rubber bands with envelopes next to them, but they didn't have the ballot and the envelope together. And people kept pulling up in vans, bringing boxes of ballots in, and all this information has been fed through One American News. Best TV network out there.
Nancy, I want to thank you for calling, and let me just say my neglecting to mention OAN and the others was certainly not intentional. What you just said is absolutely correct. I watch OAN. Newsmax is another great source, newsmax.com. And actually, what I did with one of the hearings, I don't know if it was either Breitbart or Newsmax. I had it on my iPhone because I have the apps, and I played it in my car. So, because I was driving into work last week, and I didn't want to miss any of the testimony. What Nancy said is absolutely true. These are fellow American voters, Republicans and Democrats and independents, men and women just like us who have come forward. This is not a political gab fest. This is not some hokey-dokey panel where there's like 13 people that hate Trump, but they all have a PhD. These are real people that know something is wrong. And this is where the Democrats have disconnected from, the Democrat leadership has disconnected from understanding how out of touch they are. When you have hundreds of people, thousands of comments, hundreds of incidents documented, there's 250 fraud investigations in Georgia. How do you say everything's hunky-dory? We don't even know who owns Dominion yet. We don't even know, and this is something that the news media, and I'm not going to say, all I'm going to say is this. The news media is scrambling to cover up which politicians have a interest financially or through a lobbying connection to Dominion. That's something you just want to keep an eye on. Now, I want to go back to an example. I think Paul Krugman is one of the greatest examples of the crazier you are, the better gig you can get in the news media. Can we start the Paul Krugman music? Okay, good. I'll say Paul Krugman of the New York Times. And see, there's people all over America that believe him. They say, well, Paul Krugman said, well, I heard that the New York Times. Why? Do you know how wrong they've been? Back with Fast and Furious, they've been wrong. But it doesn't matter because The New York Times looks awesome on your coffee table. You play a little classical music behind it. You put NPR on the background. Someone comes in and goes, "You're like totally smart." I'm going to read word for word what Paul Krugman said. Remember, it's December 2nd, 2020. Here's what the New York Times said. When Joe Biden is inaugurated, he will immediately be confronted with an unprecedented challenge. And I don't mean the pandemic, Mr. Krugman goes on to say, although COVID-19 will also surely be killing thousands of Americans every day. I mean that Biden will be the first modern U.S. president trying to govern in the face of an opposition that refuses to accept his legitimacy. And no, Democrats never said Donald Trump was illegitimate, Krugman goes on to say. We said he was incompetent and dangerous. It goes without saying, continued the New York Times, that Trump, whose conspiracy theories are getting wilder and wilder, will never concede, and that millions of his followers will always believe, or at least say they believe, that the election was stolen. Now, my favorite part of that, and you know Krugman's going to get a raise off this because he's probably gotten more exposure in 5 minutes on the Rush Limbaugh show than he has in his career. But this line right here, I mean that he'll be the first modern U.S. president trying to govern in the face of an opposition that refuses to accept his legitimacy. Now, do you know how stupid that man looks today? No, seriously. No, I know he's a rich New York Times guy and he's got all kinds of degrees. That means nothing to me. That right there alone. We had sitting U.S. congresswomen and men saying that Donald Trump should be impeached the week he was elected. In November of 2016, people were saying, I'm not going to meet with him. He's not a legitimate president. He should be impeached. Let's do it. This is treasonous. This is... Sorry, that's the best I can do. I know it was childish, but that's it. Think about it. There has not been one day of fair and balanced coverage of President Donald J. Trump since he came down the escalator, because he triggered a bunch of middle-aged white liberal men, most of whom run media. And ever since he triggered them, it's been payback. Nobody cares on the left about Middle East peace and booming economies and promises made and promises delivered. I am amazed at how many Democrats, white Democrats in particular, that don't care about what the Trump administration has put in place for historical black colleges or urban entrepreneurial zones for minorities or prison reform or securing the border and keeping more illegal foreign nationals out so the Americans of any color have more opportunity. And if you don't think that's how it works, ask the people in California who are subject to Governor Newsom's. If you don't think that several million illegals in your part of the state isn't taking money away from other jobs and negatively impacting the economy, well, then you must be a wealthy movie producer that has a bunch of illegals doing your yard right now. I'm Ken Matthews on the Rush Limbaugh Show. We'll be right back. You are in luck today. Boll & Branch Cyber Monday sale extended through today. That's 25% off everything on their website. Luxury sheets, towels, throw blankets. And for fans of Boll & Branch, this is the happiest time of year. And I was talking to another member of the EIB team today, and I said, you know, I didn't know anything about Boll & Branch, but when Rush Limbaugh says something about any product, I'm there. And I got my wife Boll & Branch 2 Christmases ago, And last Christmas, was it? No, last Christmas, and I don't know. But let me just put it this way. We have numerous sets of king-size Boll and Branch sheets, and they're everything that Rush says they are. And right now, 25% off. Here's Rush.
Hey, our friends at Boll and Branch have decided to extend the Cyber Monday sale. All right, this is Wednesday, and it's still on, folks. This gives you an opportunity to buy and to send as presents the super soft sheets that they sell as holiday gifts and get 25% off your online purchase. They're only available online. They're not in stores. Now, these are the luxury sheets. They start out soft, and they only get softer over time as you use them, as you clean them. If you have not tried them, this may be the perfect time. And if you've already discovered the luxury that's associated with Boll and Branch products, then you know what a great gift it can be, including the packaging alone. Boll and Branch sheets are the exact sheets. I mean, they're so close to the things that cost $1,000 in retail stores, but they $250 before any of the discounts at Boll and Branch. That's why they did this. They think these sheets should be reachable to everybody. They give you a 30-day money-back guarantee. If these sheets are not what I've led you to believe, send them back. You've got a month to try them. You get full refund if you do that. Nobody sends them back, by the way, but you can. It's BOLLNbranch.com. 25% off your entire purchase. Boll and Branch, BOLLNbranch.com.
The Rush Limbaugh Show. My name's Ken Matthews, sitting in for Mr. Limbaugh today. 800-282-2882. 800-282-2882. Here's another. They flatter me. They'll email me, especially after I do Rush's show. I just get so much email. It takes me days to go through it because I only have 13 listeners in Harrisburg, PA. But they are loyal, and they are active, and they are focused, and they are positive. And they'll say, what can I say to my cousin? What can I say to my sister-in-law? She's coming over for Christmas or Hanukkah, and, I don't want to get into it, but my gosh, Ken, this is like, what do we do? And I understand completely. And so I'm always looking for ways where you can give someone the information, and hopefully they will engage themselves. Like, How did the news media react to Jussie Smollett? Remember that? The hate crime hoax? It was a hoax. It was a hate crime. One guy, right? One guy, Jussie Smollett. He puts it out there, and every news agency on the planet is in Chicago. Before you know it, they're covering it live. Kamala Harris is doing a fundraiser. She's out with Jussie. I don't know if she wore Timberlands or sneakers that day. It was hard to tell. Bubba Wallace. Remember the Bubba Wallace case? The thing about Bubba Wallace is the FBI responded to that case. One guy who's confused about a rope handle to pull down a garage door says, my God, there's a noose at NASCAR. Scramble all units, FBI, private jet, black Chevy Suburbans, automatic weapons, let's go. Move. But hundreds of people come forward and say, there's something wrong with this election in this state, that state, this state, that state. And how does the news media react? How do they react to that?
As his hopes of a second term fade further away, a defiant Donald Trump is claiming without evidence that he's been the victim of electoral fraud.
Unleashing a barrage of false claims of fraud and corruption.
Tensions do remain high as President Trump repeats false claims that he won the presidential election.
He's again claiming without any real evidence, with zero evidence to back up his claim that there is mass voter fraud going on.
The President of the United States essentially alleging that there is a conspiracy to steal and rig the election so that he loses. Again, there's no evidence to back up that claim.
The president falsely suggesting Republican observers are not present at vote counting centers.
A statement that was baseless and was not backed up by evidence.
Unsubstantiated and false evidence. widespread voter fraud.
They're unfounded allegations of voter fraud.
He falsely thinks normal, routine ballot counting is somehow rigged against him.
The charge of electoral theft comes without evidence.
And saying without evidence that Democrats are trying to take victory away from him.
Some repeating his unsubstantiated claims of widespread voter fraud without providing evidence. Escalating his unsubstantiated claims it was stolen from him without presenting any evidence of widespread fraud.
Okay, you get the gist. I mean, it goes on for like another 7 minutes. It's a montage. It's what we do. Thanks for tuning in to the Rush Limbaugh Show, by the way. So that's the question we need to ask. I mean, the Democrat Party and the news media, and I know that they're very passionate about it because every time I tune into CNN, either Van Jones or Don Lemon, or who's the idiot, the idiot brother? Chris Cuomo. They're all tearing up and they're angry. So, you know, they're passionate. Every woman should be listened to. Hashtag. Every woman should be believed. Every person should be believed. Every person should have a vote. And yet, every American patriot who has courageously come forward and done something as simple as ask the question has been censored. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for your wonderful comments. And when I'm not banned, I am on Facebook, but I'm also on Parler and where else? LinkedIn. Yeah, they're getting kind of frisky on LinkedIn. Yeah, people are getting frisky. You know that the Democrat Party is a little off balance because so many real Americans, not lobbyists, not George Soros puppets, just people like us. We're going to the city council meetings. We're going to the hearings. We're calling our local legislator. We're calling our local senators. We're saying, hey, I demand some accountability. This makes the Democrats extremely nervous. And you see it on all the platforms where people normally don't mention politics. Like when I got banned the first time from Facebook, excuse me, I jumped over to LinkedIn. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, but I usually keep it pretty straightforward. But I started to say, controversial things like this. If you missed the compelling testimony at the Pennsylvania hearing, check this out. Okay? So I would post that, and then people would say, this is dangerous. Why are you posting it? And that told me how uninformed people are. Everybody knows this. If you're a conservative and you have any liberal friends or family, you know that's the instant pushback you get. The liberals do not say, oh, my gosh, let me look at that. Oh, wow, that is some pretty compelling testimony. And those were all people that worked there, and there were even some Democrats in there, too. They're really taking a risk coming forward. No, they don't say that. They say, what did you do? Did you drink the Trump Kool-Aid? And it's scary. It's a scary time. But now you know what communism and socialism feels like. You're getting a taste of it. Not just, shut up and put your mask on and don't go to the movie theater, don't go to the schools, stand 6 feet apart. I mean, that's standard communism right there. And it's not driven by science, and it hasn't been. But now you know when you go on a social media platform what it's like for the lone voice of truth in places all around the world that are suffering under oppressive regimes. You get just a little taste of it in this country when you go on Facebook and you want to post a doctor that is trying to explain how to strengthen your immune system against COVID, and she gets banned. Now you know. Now people know. But this is what Rush and others have been telling us for decades, that we're going to let this theft of our freedom creep in day by day, institution by institution. And pretty soon, they're going to be telling you what to wear, what to say, where to stand, where to sit, what to eat, what to drive, and where to live. We're there. Welcome. We're there. That's why the concept of a stolen election, which every day more evidence is presented, real evidence. It's not a panel on a news program. It's hundreds of Americans. They've risked their job, their safety, their reputations. So many have now come out and said, I don't even care. I got banned from this. My friends are trashing me here. But this is absurd. I was taking part in a free election, one woman said, and I can't believe. And this, one of the most compelling pieces, and I don't have it at the moment, but it's all this stuff is out there. It's just being covered up. The testimony is so compelling. It brings you to tears, some of it. To hear immigrants that came to this country and now they're American citizens and voting as someone who came from an oppressed country. I can't even imagine what's that like, what that is like. But I have friends that have done that. They've come here. They've come from a part of the world that is oppressed, where they don't have the freedoms. They're American citizens, and they talk about it with tears in their eyes. And some of them, for example, in Detroit, that is some of the most compelling testimony. And, of course, I have to say Arizona was over the top, too. And they've said, I couldn't believe I was seeing what I was seeing. I thought in America this didn't happen. That alone should be pursued by somebody in the news other than the people we're showcasing today. And they have every right to be showcased. OAN, Newsmax, Breitbart, and the list is endless. They all link around, by the way, so you can follow it. By the way, at 2 o'clock, just after 2 o'clock on the Rush Limbaugh Show on the EIB network, we are doing everything we can to connect live to a press conference from Georgia, where Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood will give us an update on how many more, what's been stolen. You may have heard rumors about votes disappearing, and you may have seen what happened over the weekend, which was amazing. Understand we're also up against corrupt judges. And it isn't just everybody's out to get me. No. We, the American people, have to eliminate corrupt judges. We have to vote them out. We have to get them out, prosecute them out, whatever. Because what happens is one judge says, all right, impound the voting machines so we can do a fair and accurate count. Then a Trump-hating leftist judge comes in and says, I'm going to put a stop on that. You're not going to do that. Now we got to go find another judge. We got to keep looking for judges that will fulfill their constitutional duty. Literally, this is what is so time-consuming. You can show some of this evidence to a 14-year-old who's had non-Common Core math. I'm not going to say Common Core math is going to help in this case. Show it to a 14-year-old, and he could figure something out, or she could figure something out. You make that presumption when you go into a court, that if there's a preponderance of evidence that explains or justifies a particular action or thought process or ideology or crime, that you're going to win. And why this is such a kick in the you-know-what is because, don't forget, Obama had 8 years of Obamianism to fill the courts with people like the guy who helped railroad Mike Flynn. Remember that? Remember they went in with all the evidence? And then the judge was ordered to dismiss the case, and he sat on it for 7 months just to put Lieutenant General Flynn through some more hell. This is what else we're dealing with. This is why now more than ever we have to be engaged, informed, but the power of the American people, there's nothing more powerful. There's tens of millions of us that think this way. And all we have to do is get engaged, act peacefully, follow the Constitution. Because as we do it, and as Senator so-and-so from the state assembly in Michigan does it, and 3 women in Arizona come forward from the state assembly, people are going to realize, oh my gosh, this is a thing. We need to pick a side. If we don't take a stand and put our foot down and say, look, we get it. Elections matter, but not stolen elections. Not stolen elections. Some of the same people that roll their eyes at you when you say, yeah, Trump won Pennsylvania, and they roll their eyes. Would they be okay if they went to the bank today and there was $47 missing from their account? And then next week there was $82, and people just said, I don't know what you're talking about. Those computers are fine, and it certainly wasn't human error. I don't know what you're whining about. This is what the Democrat Party is expecting America to do. So we cheated and won. Get over it. Ain't going to happen. This is the Rush Limbaugh Show. We'll be right back. Back to the phones we go on the Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. I am so energized because of you. You can feel the energy. You can feel Americans coming together. And that is going to ruin a lot of mainstream media people's day. But the more information, the more exciting it's going to be. It's going to be. I don't think there's going to be a dull moment in politics ever again. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump. Let's go to Steve in Niagara Falls, New York. Welcome to the Rush Limbaugh Show, Steve.
Thanks, Ken. The one thing I wanted to mention was for the first 2.5 or 3 years of Donald Trump's presidency, all we kept hearing every other day from media outlets was bombshell, latest bombshell, bombshell. That was kind of like the buzzword that all the outlets used. Now that we have all of this evidence coming out, now that we have all of these voter irregularities that are coming to the surface, you don't hear that word anymore. So I was just thinking the growing media outlets that are conservative in nature, we should probably bring that word back in vogue and just use it the way they did, because these are definite bombshells where the others were superficial at best.
Well, that is such a great point, Steve, and I'm glad you called, because as you were talking, I was thinking about how the news media handled every report with President Trump, like you said.
Breaking news.
A bombshell.
Today is a turning point. Today was historically bad for President Trump.
Today was a turning point.
A turning point.
We're at a turning point here.
The beginning of the end for the Trump presidency.
We have another bombshell.
Mike Pence might have to assume the office of the presidency.
Rumblings of the word impeachment.
Breaking news.
Another bombshell out of the White House.
I believe this is the beginning of the end.
I do too.
It's really the beginning of the end.
He may be feeling the walls closing in on him.
All the walls closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him.
Breaking news, a new bombshell.
One astrologer says this means the beginning of the end for President Donald Trump.
Trump will resign. Trump is going to resign.
Is this the tipping point? I know we've said...
You know, I love the... They're puppets. They're puppets. You know, bombshell, turning point, beginning of the end, walls closing in. It's just... I'm sorry. I'm having too much fun making fun of people that think they're credible, but they're actually funny.
Said it over and over.
You think this is a tipping point?
And over and over.
This is a tipping point.
And over and over.
Breaking news, President Trump off the rails.
There's the beginning of the end today.
The beginning of the end.
Breaking news tonight, new bombshell.
This is the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
The walls are closing in.
The walls closing in.
The walls closing in.
Breaking overnight bombshell.
This is a very dramatic day, and I think...
I'm sorry. How do you take them seriously? That was all from the summer of 2017, by the way. Yeah. Isn't that funny? I mean, they were saying the walls were closing in. When President Trump and my favorite first lady of all time, Melania, were coming down the escalator, people were saying, I don't know, it looks like it's over. The walls are closing in. Remember all the late night people that mocked President Trump and just made this, it got to a point where it became obscene and vulgar, the way they attacked the president. And then don't forget the celebrities, because celebrities are really smart because they have nice houses. All the celebrities that came out. Trump's never going to be president. Blah, 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 blah. People like Chelsea Handler, and it's just. I'm sorry. That's one of the things I use to encourage my fellow conservatives that sometimes get a little down in the dumps and they think, oh my God, are they going to pull this off? I said, I really don't think President Trump has even begun to fight. Understand, this is a guy who came into a handcrafted, custom-made, deep state, leftist dumpster fire built by the Obama administration. It took him months to figure out and pull all the knives out of his back. And he was probably like most people that were never in politics, right? I've never been in politics. You presume that if you're surrounded by people that took that oath, with their hand on the Bible and the 4 on the Quran, you presume that they're going to protect and defend the Constitution from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. So help me God. You presume that. I felt terrible for President Trump the first year. He presumed that people that ran the FBI or people that were in charge of intelligence or people that they were honest, that they were all honest. And he would have a meeting and there'd be legitimate evidence and they'd go, okay, Mr. President. No, for the first 4 years of his 4 years, every day it was a plot to take out President Trump. And he still got more votes than any other sitting president in the history of the United States. If that doesn't tell you how stinky, it's one of my favorite words. One of my young neighbors uses it. She's 7. If that doesn't tell you how stinky this election is, he's still standing. And I don't think you've even seen all the evidence yet. So that's my word of optimism. 800-282-2882. Mike, do we have time to go to Ed? Okay, Ed, can we get Ed after this break? Okay, Ed, stand by. We'll be right back on Rush Limbaugh with your call. This is the Rush Limbaugh Show, and I said I would get Ed in from Orlando, Florida. Ed, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show. We're heading up to a hard break, so I'm just going to let you take it. Go ahead.
Okay, Ken. Nobody should feel that fighting the media monolith is insurmountable. There are things that you can do. You can pull the plug. That's the first thing. You can go to your satellite and cable providers and tell them that you demand a la carte service. You're happy to pay for OANN, and you're happy to pay for Newsmax, but you refuse to line the pockets of CNN and MSNBC. Also, local broadcast stations, even your network affiliates, they all are licensed by the FCC to operate on public airwaves. We own the airwaves. FCC only regulates them. They have to have a license that's subject to renewal. That renewal can be fought. You can attend hearings and you can write write letters to the FCC and contest future licensing for those networks. The networks only provide public service by reporting the news, Ken. They don't provide any public service by rerunning sitcoms and shows. The public service they provide is by supporting local news. That local news needs to be censor-free and complete. If they don't provide that to you, they are not performing in their responsibility to deliver a public service. I intend to fight license renewals for all 4 of the local affiliates in my city, Ken.
I want to thank you for calling. That is so powerful. I am so glad we were able to get you on the show today. That is an example of focused, engaged, informed battle without violence. Always good to have you tuning in. It's truly a pleasure and an honor to be talking with this great audience. And I am still in the battleground state. I'm in a bunker at the moment. Actually, they're counting votes very close to me. Hold on a second. Ma'am, what is that a Trump vote? No, don't throw it away, ma'am. No, that counts. See, this is what we're up against. 800-282-2882. Now, We're going to go back to the phones, and then if Mike can get, I don't know exactly when Sidney Powell and Lynn are going to be doing the press conference, but I'm sure it'll be some very valuable information, bring us all up to speed on the case. But in the meantime, we'll go back to the phones, and if we can, we'll break in live for the stolen election update. But let's go now to Fort Wayne, Indiana. Kristen, hi, you're on Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hey, Ken. Hey, thanks for taking my call. I'm so nervous. I can't tell you how long I've tried to get in. Hey, I'm trying to meet this show. Prayers to Rush. He's such a light, a bright light for all of us, and just, I think, brings us hope every day, as well as all of his fill-ins, including you, Mark. I guess I'm very frustrated. I feel like for the last 12 years, we have been very oppressed. Even with the 4 years of President Trump's presidency, we've had this shadow government that's been conniving and designing behind the scenes. President Trump's not had any freedom at all. He's just been inundated with attacks nonstop. Prior to his 4 years, the 8 years of Obama's presidency and all the schemes and scandals, they were never once investigated, or if they were investigated, all we heard from time to time was that they were going to be, they were looking into it. And I'm just so frustrated. I see this great nation, and these people behind the scenes, and we majority of us know who it is, who they are, and they're just designing all of this. And our side just stands by, and we don't fight. And if we do, we've just got a few fighters. But nothing comes of it. I'm so disappointed in William Barr. He had an opportunity to investigate.
I know.
He's not done anything. And now we're going to watch this thrown in front of us, as well as the one global rule by their design.
Here's the thing, Kristen, and thank you for calling. I know Rush's audience hears exactly what you're saying. This is by design. This is how it's done. You have to get your your adversary in this case. So the Team Biden, Team News Media, Team Left, Team China. Think about all the American politicians that are making bank off China. Obviously, I'm not going to mention them now. They don't want someone coming in and putting us before them. Most politicians put themselves first. Look at how they vote. Look at how they act. Now, the great thing about President Donald J. Trump, in my opinion, is he inspires the greatness of America. That's why he got more votes than any other incumbent president, and they're not even done counting. What does that tell you? That tells you that people are plugged in, they're engaged. 74 million people. The most impressive thing about these hearings and about what's happening with the irregularities that are being exposed, I'm just reading some things now that are just popping up that you will not hear about in the mainstream news media. Another lawsuit being filed in Nevada. 40,000 people voted twice. Well, that's not allowed. But for some reason, the news media is okay with it. Let's see. We're going to, there's a challenge to the Electoral College votes in Congress. We have a congressperson coming forward with that. We have the Wisconsin election commissioner calling for the resignation of the Democrat chair. And we have another person, another member of the assembly, calling in Nevada for it to be decertified. We have another Detroit poll watcher alleging fraud. She has signed a affidavit. We have Arizona congressman, more than enough evidence to sustain election lawsuit. I could go on and on. Official in Georgia issues statement on viral video of Dominion workers with the USB drives. If you missed hearing that in the news, that's not a good thing. When people come in with USB drives on counting night, on election day, or the wee hours of the following morning and start plugging him into a machine that should only be seeing the votes. And then there's levels of this that the news media would do a great service to their listeners, but that's not what they're about. But they would do a great service if they would explain to people the difference between digital voting, online voting, which we don't have, thank God, mail-in voting, absentee voting. There's several other kinds, and they haven't explained them all and how they get counted, what's being counted, what's kept, what's thrown away. We've learned that envelopes get thrown away, and then amazingly, signatures get destroyed, and then we have to rely on a computer that takes a scan that measures a dot. You've probably heard of the different pens and the Sharpies, and there is so much irregularity, and it's a disservice not to talk about it. But again, the most powerful thing about all of this, getting back to what you said, Christian, understand we are driving this. We the people. This terrifies career politicians. People like Senator Pat Toomey in my state of Pennsylvania. People like Governor Cuomo in New York or Whitmer in Michigan. They don't want this setup. They don't like the constitutional setup. They don't want a constitution that says, hold on a second, I think there's something a little sneaky here. Can I see that again? Can I take a look at that? No. But now, with President Donald Trump, because he's an outsider, he's not owned by a lobby, he's not owned by another country, he doesn't need the job for money. He didn't come in like Joe Biden, who, a couple years ago, the Bidens made $350,000 and change, and now they're in the millions and millions and millions? What happened? Come on, I know he gets speaking fees, but come on, have you heard him speak? This is such a defining moment because Trump is not part of their clique. This is why all of us should be excited. The irony about President Trump, in my opinion, that the Democrats miss is the Democrats that have approached him and the Democrat voters, the former Obama voters and the former Clinton voters that have approached Trump and actually got to know his policies or him, realize, wow, this guy's doing a pretty decent job. I mean, he's not Jesus. I mean, there's only one Jesus, and, that's Obama. But he's doing a pretty good job. And that's why in 2016, President Trump got 63-point-something million, and now he's over 74 million. And we haven't even counted all the legal votes. When you look at the down ballots, when you look at all the little idiosyncrasies, the momentum is on our side. The reason, Christian, I think people get discouraged is because if you're at the airport or you turn on the news that they have in the classrooms, if you're at one of the 3 schools that's open, the news in the classrooms and the news at the doctor's office and the news at the airport and the feeds on your phone, they don't want what Trump is selling. They don't want a constitutional republic. They liked the way it was set up before, where President Obama can hang out on President Bush's ranch and Bill Clinton can stop by and say, we're all brothers from another mother. High five. Deep state. They like that. Trump was like, what is this? This is a mess. Why are other countries determining our destiny? Didn't we change that in 1776? Of course we did. Biden barely made it through the primaries. President Trump was on fire. His rallies, I went to them. They were on fire. Trump exceeded his original vote count by the largest margin for any incumbent American president in history. 10 million at today's count so far than before. Trump's support among black voters grew by 50%. Biden's support from black voters fell below where it was under Obama. It's under the 90% mark. Now, standing alone, that's impressive. But when you add in the fact that every day, every single news agency, with the exception of about a half dozen, called the leader of the free world a racist, a bigot, and worse. And yet, the American people, regardless of their color, their gender, whatever, they're smart enough to see through this. They're smart enough to say, enough already. My gosh, policy-wise, he's done more for the black community and women than any other president. Enough. This is why I think we're winning. Excuse me. This is why I think we're winning. And this is why now more than ever, we have to find reliable sources, stay informed, share the sources, vet the sources. Don't believe anything blindly. That's why America is great, because the majority of us do think for ourselves. The majority says, I forget, hey, Mike, which state is the show me state? Is that, I always forget, is that Missouri? I always forget. But like the light, some state is the show me state, and I always forget what it is. But I always love that, because it's kind of like, welcome to our state, back it up. And that's America. And Missouri, thank you. And this has got career politicians, people who want to just go along to get along, people who don't want to fight, people who talk a bunch of crap during the primaries and during the campaign, and then they get in office and they have the power to stand up, and they don't. That's the difference between Americans and sellout politicians. We do. And there's 74 million of us. We so outnumber the Senate and the Congress. We'll be right back on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Rush cares about your family, and he wants you to be safe. And Simply Safe makes that possible. And they make it easy. Easy to understand, easy to install, and it keeps the bad guys away. Here's Rush with more.
Now, all the time at home this year, a lot of people spent I hope you love your home. I hope you like where you live, because a lot of people have been stuck there. It's brought an increased number of home repairs and renovations. Home improvement stores are reporting record sales nationwide this year. Appliance purchases are up significantly, too. The same is true with home security from Simply Safe. They're going gangbusters. They have experienced a huge spike in sales, largely because of me, but there are other circumstances as well. And this is a security system, Simply Safe is, that you install yourself. But don't let that make you think it's not full bore. It's every bit as effective. In fact, I'd venture to say it's going to be more effective than a system you don't install. For this reason, after you install it, and it's easy, it's less than an hour, you're going to know it. You're going to have an awareness of your system that you would not have if it was installed by somebody else. And the reason it would be installed by somebody else is because you can't do it. And the reason that you couldn't do it is because there are thousands of feet of wires. You wouldn't want to run wire to every sensor in your house if you're the traditional security system. Heck with that. That's why you have the installers do it. Simply Safe doesn't have any wires. I'm telling you, the complexity that is removed, the simplicity that becomes part of this, being able to install every sensor, knowing where it is, being able to track down sensors that go bad and easily replace them. Folks, I'm telling you, the Simply Safe, and this is not to put down the effectiveness of other security systems. I'm just telling you that you put this in, and it's as effective as anybody else's is, but it doesn't have any wires, which means you will have an intimate awareness of it. It's not going to intimidate you. When something goes wrong, you're not going to have to find a number or somebody to call and get them out there to fix it. You're going to be able to troubleshoot it yourself easily because it uses Wi-Fi. It uses Wi-Fi to connect all the sensors to the base station. Uses cellular to connect to the police department and the fire department. Simply Safe is protecting more than 3 million homes now, all very effectively. Once it's activated, you decide if you want 24/7 monitoring $14.99 a month with no contract. The system is on sale right now. It's the Black Friday sale at Simply Safe. It's on as much as 50% off, plus a free HD camera. So go look at it online and see. SimplySafeUSA.com. That's SimplySafeUSA.com.
You're tuned to the EIB Network. My name's Ken Matthews, guest hosting for Rush Limbaugh today. 800-282-2882 if you want to join the conversation. Let's go to Detroit, Michigan, another hub of irregular voting. Ken, welcome to the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Well, first, I'd like to say Merry Christmas to Rush Limbaugh and his entire audience, and you too, Ken.
Thank you.
And what I'd like to touch on is Rush once made a comment that I'd like to repeat and then expand upon. And now these are my words, but I believe it's Rush's comment. And that is, in the eyes of many of the voters, difference between the conservatives and the liberals, the Democrats, and I would add even, unfortunately, many of the Republicans that fall under that category of being liberal, was that we conservatives offer hard work. But the liberals, the Democrats, they offer Santa Claus with 24/7 delivery. Now, let me quickly expand upon that and apply it to what we're dealing with. Hard work, yes. If you want to have freedom, you want to have liberty, it takes hard work. From the time of America's creation, when we broke away from King George, we created the U.S. Constitution and everything that we've had to do to defend our rights all the way up to now with the battle that Donald Trump is going through. Yes, that is hard work. Now, this claim of Santa Claus and 24/7 delivery, here's the reality. When we look at every nation today and every nation in the past that follows the same economic beliefs of the Democrat Party, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, what do we see? Tyranny, fascism. They lie, they steal, they deceive, they falsify elections. I don't want to live in a nation of fascists. I do not want to live in a nation of tyranny. And so, did the Democrats steal this election or try to steal this election? Well, stealing for them, as we can see again through history, is just as common as breathing. That's a fact. Something to think about, people.
Wow. Thank you, Ken. Detroit, Michigan, and I don't remember if the hearings have started there yet or not. They might be today's one. I think it's Thursday. I think I heard Sidney Powell say Thursday. Now, by the way, the press conference, I don't believe it's started yet. We'll try to go live, but if we can't, I'm sure you'll find it on some of the sources that we've been talking about today. But please, if you take anything away, remember there are plenty of alternative platforms where you will not get a narrative, where you will get an entire hearing laid out before you. And that's, to me, when I saw that the major news networks were not covering a stolen election and hundreds of allegations of voter theft and fraud, when they wouldn't even cover it, that's when everybody's antenna should go up, right there. But in the meantime, what do? We call our state representatives. And I know in Pennsylvania that technically they're out until January 5th, but upon further reading of the Constitution, you can still come back in and form committees, and you can still work to earn your pay. Where the number is 800-282-2882. And really quickly, I can't believe how the time flies. It really does. It's been a very inspiring day because of you, and I'm grateful for that. Call your state representatives if you're one of the 74-plus million. Many people think there are maybe 80-plus million votes for Trump. I hope we have an opportunity to find that out. You call your state representatives, wherever you are, in whatever state, and you say, Are you going to send electors to Washington? And do you believe that this was a fair and accurate election? Do you think the count was fair and accurate? You call your governors. You call the Secretary of State. And you ask questions and you demand accountability. I think the biggest element that gets lost during all this leftist garbage, that's French for garbage, is we are the boss. And in the leftist world, in the socialist world, the communist world, the fascist world, the small group in charge, they think they are the boss. America shows up on the scene, and we, the people, are the boss, but we've been taught not to understand that power. And on the left, and you can tell the left doesn't understand it, because we will, as someone mentioned earlier, I think the gentleman's name was Bruce, and he called in and he said, don't forget that the broadcast stations, they have a license issued by us, we the people, to broadcast. They have an obligation because it's our airwaves, public airwaves. And I thought that was brilliant. What a great way to hold local news people accountable. Whereas the angry leftist, they'll light a police car on fire. See, that's the mentality, though. It is taught. That mentality is taught. Because we are the only form of government that clearly, in writing, says if we all have a grievance, y'all better watch out. Now, I did some paraphrasing there, but we're the only form of government. Now, a lot of countries try to copy that. They dream of that. We try to help people with their freedom. That's another thing I had to set someone straight in my building recently. Well, first of all, let me mention this that nobody mentions. I forget what source I got it from, but I confirmed it. Do you know that President Donald Trump is the first president in 40 years who has not gotten us into a war or a military altercation or military operation? Is that not amazing? Remember what everybody at the New York Times said, that he would crash the economy in early 2017. Thanks, Paul Krugman, for nothing. We'll be at war with China. We'll be at war with North Korea. He's going to destroy the border. We're going to lose Mexico as an ally. He's going to blow up trade. None of it happened. None of it happened. And that's because we have a constitution that says you and I have more power than Senator Bozo or Congressman. I almost cussed. I'm glad I didn't. That would have been bad. Congressman Poo-Poo Head. We have more power than them. But it's funny because in school, how are you raised? Think about it. The honorable, the distinguished. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. Now, if you want to put honorable and distinguished in front of a police officer who just got in a shootout to save a small business owner's life, oh, I get that. You want to say the honorable and distinguished veteran who won this award or this medal or risked his life, oh, I understand that. But I'm getting tired of calling judges distinguished and honorable, and the same with politicians. Everybody's like, oh, my God, Congressman so-and-so's here. Congressman so-and-so's full of crap. Why are we applauding? So, Trump pretty much put a spotlight on all this. And and I know a lot of people in this audience have been to a rally. Aren't they the coolest things? They're like a rock concert. You get policy, you get Americana, and then the president wraps it up with a little Village People dance, which there's so many memes about, it's hysterical. You got to check out the memes. when he's dancing to YMCA. The movement he makes with his upper body, I don't know how he does it, but it's pretty damn impressive. So we call our state representatives. We call our governor's office. We ask questions. We demand accountability. That's how we do it. That's how we win. We stay informed. We stay positive. We stay engaged. We stay informed. We check our sources. That's the other thing. We have to stay informed with sources we can trust. And they're out there. You know who you can't trust. You know who is out to get Trump. You know who doesn't think America's a good country. I don't even know how you get on the air as a journalist if you think America is as bad as China or Iran. How does that even happen? How do you say that in the same sentence with a straight face? Well, America's no different than Iran. What the hell is wrong with people? Let's go to Christina in Decatur, Illinois. Hi, Christina. You're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm feeling good all under.
All right, I'm going to try to keep this brief. I had a unique year. My husband and I were huge Trump supporters. We really try to keep informed on everything. And I have a daughter in college, and I have a daughter in high school. And it is amazing what they learn there from their teachers, especially the one in college. Extremely liberal. We've had lots of discussions and arguments. But it just, talk about controlling what they know and what they learn. And she's even had professors saying, well, if you're a Trump supporter, you can leave now. Or, and I'm like, wait a minute here. You're supposed to be a professor. So if my daughter knows what your political bias is, that's not a good professor. And then my high school daughter, she wants to learn more. And she's like, Mom, nobody tells us all these different things. Because we've been having all these discussions of what each party does and what they're for, and also now with the voting problems. They have no clue. And when they're only listening to the social media and everything, it's really a disaster.
Well, now you're still a fan of Trump, I take it, I hope?
Oh, yes, very much so.
Good. It reminds me, I remember watching in a classroom setting, although it was summer, I was at a summer school thing at my school down in Fort Lauderdale, and they put up the moon landing, and we were watching that on black and white TV. And I remember some of the things that they show in classrooms now. I'm a former substitute teacher, only a substitute, so I don't have the experience of real teachers that do it every day for a living. But I saw enough to know when one of the assignments was Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth, I knew then we had lost academia. Today, if I was someone today in this day and age, I would be playing these hearings for history class, social studies class, political science classes, and the whole class could watch uninterrupted, unedited, the entire hearing, and then they could write reports on it. Because there are local and state representatives at the Senate and representative levels that are making their states proud. And, it's funny. As a conservative, I enjoy taking politicians to task because so many are scumbags. However, there are some very impressive people, and there are some good people in there. So that's the other mission of those of us that want a fair and accurate count. You find the honest people. You find the good people. You find the business owner that sacrificed his time and his family life to really represent people, whether it's in Arizona or Nevada, and you connect with them. But watching these hearings, that to me is the only place lately that I have been able to witness the greatness of our government functioning as it should. You hear a Democrat have a question. Republican has a question. There's people from the audience, the public. You hear the lawyers. You hear the experts. It's such a learning experience, and we're being denied that. And the fact that they're not learning that in the school, I know it's heartbreaking. My wife and I are so proud of our sons. They both work. One is 16. He has a year and a half left. My other one's a 19-year-old. And I went back and forth on this, a couple years ago. Dad, I want to take a year off before I go to school. And I said, well, you're going to work. He still lives at home. And he works. They both work. I'm just very proud of them. And I'm so thrilled he is not in a college right now. Could you imagine the indoctrination that's going on during the pretend President Biden and the hatred of Donald Trump? He's probably smarter sitting at home after work playing a video game with some of his buddies than he is in a political science class in Washington, D.C. This is the Rush Limbaugh Show. We'll be right back. This is the Rush Limbaugh Show. My name is Ken Matthews, sitting in for Mr. Limbaugh today. And if you missed it earlier, we lost a conservative icon earlier this morning. Walter Williams passed away this morning. He was a great economist, a freedom fighter, a writer, a very funny, entertaining guy, and part of the EIB family, a beloved guest host on the Rush Limbaugh Show. And as we all remember, Walter Williams.
Liberty is not the normal state of affairs. That is, throughout mankind's history, he's been subject to arbitrary abuse and control by others. And so the amount of liberties that Americans have, and perhaps Western Europe as well, the amount of it is relatively rare in humankind. And I think that the danger that we face is that some historian, maybe 200 years from now, he might be writing, he says, well, look, the normal state of affairs has been arbitrary abuse and control by others. And there's this little tiny curiosity where a relatively few people had a large amount of liberty for a short amount of time, but it all went back to the normal state of affairs. That is arbitrary abuse and control by others.
Walter Williams, rest in peace. 800-282-2882. Now, tomorrow, Rush is planning on returning, but if not, you'll be hearing from the progressive wonderland known as Seattle. Todd Herman. Talk about being surrounded. Talk about being surrounded by liberals. So Todd will be in tomorrow if Rush decides to take another day. In the meantime, I wanted to mention in passing, now, before I give you my website, I just want to tell you, it's a lot different than Stein Online. Because, Mark Stein is an author. He's a conservative dude. He's well-known. He's on Fox. He travels around the world. He even has a cruise. You can take a cruise with Mark Stein. Now, I don't know what type of swimsuit you're allowed to wear. I don't know how that works. That's Mr. Stein's business. You don't get that on my site. It's very basic. KenMatthewsMedia.com. KenMatthewsMedia.com. Now, Mike, I think you could wear a G-string like you wear around the office. Now, what I'm thinking of doing is I'd like to put together a cruise, like a minivan. I'm going to rent a minivan. I'll pick up some conservative people. Not you, Mike, because of the swimsuit thing. And I'll drive around blue states. So I am thinking about it. But, again, there's no cruise up. The cruise opportunity is with Mark, Stein Online. And I've just got some book reviews and some smart aleck remarks and things of that nature. But I was thinking about we could call it a cruise if we rent a minivan and we're all hanging out. We could drive around Detroit on January 20th. Whoa! Now that would be a cruise. 800-282-2882. In Houston, Texas, this is Dimitri. Dimitri, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Yes, good afternoon, sir. I'll be quick. I want to get to the point. I'll comment on the observation that Obama made about that we got drunk and driving big trucks and using cheap gasoline during the Trump days. That tells me two things. That the guy doesn't understand economics 101. He doesn't understand that everything depends on transportation. Every delivery truck, every UPS truck, every tomato, every gallon of milk that gets you to the grocery store depends on the fact that Someone has to produce it. Someone has to use electricity. Someone has to use fuel to distribute it to location A, B, and C. The very jet that he rides on, it takes jet A. That's also price is low. It's been in the last 4 years. And that tells me that he doesn't really understand how this economy works. He doesn't understand that low prices on low fuel, it guarantees a tremendous spike and tremendous economy boom. And that's what we've been experiencing. And back to your point, the thing that he doesn't like he wants to eliminate all those cheap transportation so we can depend on government, on sale fuels, and on regulations, and on windmills. And he every time he makes a comment, you understand how barefooted the guy is in terms of economy 101.
Well, Dimitri, you nailed it. You're spot on that. And even the gas that fuels his jet comes on a truck because trucks drive America. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you have well wishes for Rush, you can put them on Share Your Stories. There's a tab right on RushLimbaugh.com. It's replaced the special notes for Rush tab. Stay positive. Stay engaged. I'll see you on social media if I don't get banned again.
Hi, I'm CJ Pearson, and I'm everything the left hates. Young, black, and unapologetically conservative. Generation Z is tired of the BS, tired of the cancel culture, indoctrination, and tired of being told what to think. Join me each and every week as I take on the left, uncensored, unfiltered, and unafraid. Listen to CJ Pearson Uncensored every Thursday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.